Hey YouTube, this is Jaden Storm coming at you from Team Shadow Strike, and I have another deck profile here for you guys. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my Shadow Paladin Witch deck. So anyway, here we go guys, hope you enjoy it. So for the starting Vanguard, I run Creeping Dark Goat. The Witch starter, in my opinion, is just terrible. Even though, some people still play it as their starter and they just have a 5k boost on the board, I prefer this just because I get use out of it. But I can also see some people's argument for playing the Witch starter because this deck does counterblast quite a bit. And they're like, well, I do that, just have a 5k boost. That way I don't have to pay for this counterblast. But I just prefer having this. That's just me. And I play a few things in here that, because my builds might be a little bit different, but I don't know. I haven't looked at a whole lot of deck profiles of this, mainly because I already kind of knew how I wanted to build this deck. I just kind of looked at all the witch stuff and just kind of envisioned how I wanted it anyway. This does interfere with one thing that I do play in the deck, but you'll see when I get to there. So for the starter, Creeping Dark Goat, grade 3 search. For the triggers, 4 copies of Black Crow Witch Eni. 4 draws. 4 stand triggers. That's right, I play Rainbow in this deck. I like the stand trigger. It has a pretty cool ability. When this unit is placed on the rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Witch in its card name and the number of grade 0 rear guards on your opponent has is 2 or more, soul charge 1, and choose a card from your damage zone and turn it face up. So it serves 2 purposes. It helps feed your grade 1 and grade 2 cards that swap cards out of your opponent's damage zone from their field, and it's a stand trigger. And with the way I play the deck, the stand triggers, sometimes I've won games just because I checked a stand trigger at the right time. So I play 4 stands, and then obviously I play 4 heal triggers. So I just love the Witch art, guys. That's the whole reason I built this deck, was I just loved all the artwork. So for the grade 1s, I play 1 copy of Barrier Witch Granny, which is the Quintet Wall. And then I play 3 copies of the Witch's Strawberries Frambos. This is the Genesis Perfect Guard, but since it's a witch, it's technically okay. Now, I have heard that there are some people that say in upper level tournaments you can't do this, but for locals and just playing around, it's technically not breaking a law or any rule, because this they're not clan specific anymore. These would be the regular Shadow Paladin Perfects if I still had them, but I don't. And then I would put these in my CEO deck because I just love this Perfect Guard. But I only have 1 set of Revenger Perfects, and those are in my Revenger deck. So I really didn't want to. But if I ever do get more Shadow Paladin Perfects, I'm going to take those out. But for now, they do just fine. 4 copies of the Witch of Precious Stones, Dana. So this card, her ability is, when this unit is placed on the rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Witch in its card name, choose one of your opponent's rear guard circles with a rear guard, and your opponent chooses a grade 0 from his or her drop zone and calls that unit to the field. So for a Soul Blast of 1, you force them to take one of their units off the board and swap it out with a grade 0 from the drop zone. Just make sure before you play these cards, guys, if you are wanting to get the skill off, make sure that they have a grade 0 in their drop zone. So 2 copies of Witch of Ruination Scatchus. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This is the Witch 10k attacker. It's just a good idea to have these. I mean, it's another beater for the deck. So 2 10k attackers. 2 copies of Witch of Quest Securna, I think is how you pronounce that. Yeah, Securna. Her ability is, when this unit is placed on the rear guard, if your Vanguard with Witch in its card name is in Legion, and the number of grade 0 rear guards your opponent has is 2 or more, you may select one of your Witch rear guards and retire it, and choose your opponent's Vanguard, and that unit gets minus 5,000 until the end of turn. So it forces your opponent to drop more cards that turn when you're attacking. So very good card. I've even considered maybe eventually going to 3 on this, but 2 right now is doing its work. And then for the last card, I'm playing 2 cards. I'm playing 2 copies of Witch of Nostrum Aryan Rod. This is the Shadow Paladin clone for Dragon Monk Gojo, where you rest it, drop, and draw a card. I like it because if you're at 3 cards and you're 1 card away from performing Legion, you can do it just to get Legion off, and still a solid 7k boost. So, for grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Witch of Reality Female. So this is our Witch 12k attacker. It's also the Legion mate for one of our bosses, so good card. We play 4 copies of the Inspection Witch Deidre. This is a grade 2 clone of Dana. And when she's placed on the rear guard, you may Soul Blast 1, select one of your opponent's rear guards, and they swap that out with a grade 0 from their drop zone. So, and then I play 2 Curse Lancers because I like to be able to inflict damage if I can. You know, the only thing that this does hurt is if I do ride this as my grade 2 Vanguard, I can't use my 10k or my 12k attacker to gain that boost, but I do like these mainly just to stick on rear guards. And then I play 1 copy of Skull Witch Nemain. I was playing 2, but I saw her way too much, so I went down to 1. That way, you know, she's there, and if I draw her, I normally get her off, and then I can just intercept her off. But for some reason, 2 Skull Witches, I would draw them both together, and it's like, I don't want this. And then for the grade 3s, we play 4 copies of Cultist Witch Rias. So, her ability, Seek the Mate. Whoop, wrong way. Seek the Mate. Her ability is, when this unit legions, if you may sacrifice 1 of your Witch rear guards. If you do, your opponent's Vanguard loses 5,000 power for each grade 0 that they have. Now, here's something you need to remember. There is a difference between when it says if it's in Legion or when it's in Legion. Excuse me, guys. If it says if, that just means your Vanguard has to be in Legion. Period. It just has to be in Legion. If it says when, that means you must use the skill when you Legion, when it happens. So, just keep that in mind. And then her second skill is you may Counterblast 2 to reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, and then select one of their rear guards, and they swap it out with a grade 0 if they pulled 1 off the top 5. So, not bad. This is a good card to use when you're going for the kill. So, and then finally we play 4 Mesmerizing Witch Fianna. This is what is considered the boss of the deck, and it legions with Female. So, there we go. That looks better, right? So, okay. Her ability is Legion, Seek the Mate. Counterblast 2, if this unit is in Legion, you may choose up to 2 of your opponent's rear guard circles with rear guards. Your opponent reveals the top 10 cards from the top of his or her deck. Choose grades and chooses grade 0s equal to the amount of rear guards you've chosen, so 2, and they call them over those 2 rear guards. So it's forces them to look at the top 10 card. You select 2 of their rear guards, they look at the top 10 cards, and then replace those 2 rear guard circles and the rear guards that are in those rear guard circles with grade 0s. They must have a rear guard present in them. So for Fianna. And her second skill, it's another skill that comes in handy, is if your opponent has at least, I believe it's 2 as well. Let's see. Yep. If your opponent has at least 2 grade 0s on board, you can sacrifice you can sacrifice a unit on your rear guard that has the same name as a unit in your Vanguard circle. So you can sacrifice another Fianna or a Female and draw 2 cards. So it kind of gives you a mini Skull Witch ability, except you don't have to discard. You're technically retiring a unit, but you can use that sometime if you're trying to perform Legion. So there's that. So, and that is pretty much it, guys. So, this has been my deck profile on my witches. So, you know, basically, all this deck does, guys, is it takes away your opponent's triggers. By taking away your opponent's triggers, it, you know, it doesn't take long to figure out that they're not going to be triggering you as much. You know, they might have to possibly give up some critical triggers, some heal triggers, some key things that they need, you know. So, this deck is just too good. Now, some of you might be asking, am I going to be doing a Phantom Blaster Abyss deck profile? The answer to that question is, I really don't know. Because to be real honest with you, the price on those cards when they very first came out, and even last time I looked, were kind of ridiculous. I will build that deck if I can get all the cards. But if I can't, then it might be a while. I mean, I'm going to build it eventually, I know. But in all honesty, I think the Witches are better than Abyss. That's just my opinion. I think they pose more of a threat because Abyss's ability, when you Legion with him, you must use his ability that turn, and then after you do it, that's kind of really all he does. But it's just my opinion, you know. I mean, you might think Abyss is better than Witches, and if so, you have every right to think that if that's what you want. But I love the Witch deck. I think it's a very, very, very punishing deck, and it's a pain to deal with. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my Witch deck profile. So in the comment section below, feel free to leave a comment, leave suggestions, leave some feedback. Always like to hear what you guys have to say. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up this video, and share it with your friends. And I'll see you next time.